I gotta be totally honest, when I saw that, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a prank. But apparently, it is not a prank. It is a real thing. It's that time of the year where the NFL draft, it's not coming up really soon, but we're to the point where we're going to start talking about all the BS that's going to happen. And when I say BS, you know what I'm talking about. They're going to say this guy's going to go in the first round and then he's going to fall to the fourth round. There's all this chaotic stuff that goes on. I'll give you a great example. Most people think the first pick's either going to be Will Anderson Jr., Bryce Young, or CJ Stroud, but in the newest mock draft, neither of those guys are going number one. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. No disrespect, I think he's a great player, but I didn't hear anything about Trayvon Walker going number one up until a week before the draft. Nobody at all even talked about the Trayvon Walker kid all throughout college football season. Next thing we know, he's the number one pick. I'm not saying he didn't deserve it. I think he's a great player, but it goes to prove my point. The NFL draft is strange, and the process leading up to it is even weirder. We're going to talk all about that in today's video, and I think one of the weirdest parts about all of this is Stetson Bennett is projected to be a pretty high pick. When I saw how high they had him getting drafted, I thought it was a joke. I had to double check it, and no, it's not a joke. It's the real thing. I'm excited to get into this one. Hope you guys are excited as well. You know the drill. If you like college football, maybe some NFL, some college basketball content sprinkled in here and there, consider joining our amazing community. Shout out to everybody that is subscribed. All right, Matt. Blah, blah, blah. Shut the crap up. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. Where do we want to start with this? We got a bunch of different to talk about. Okay, I say we start with this. On Instagram, Eli sent me this and said, yo, Matt, what do you think about it? And yeah, I guess we're jumping straight into things because this is Mel Kiper's first mock draft. It's just the top 10 picks, and even though it is 10 picks, it is fascinating to say the least. At number 10, it's some nobody defensive tackle. At number 9, we got Anthony Richardson, the Florida quarterback. That is very, very interesting because I watched him at Florida this year, and yes, I see the potential. I see the upside, but to draft him at number 9, I'm just going to leave it at this. It's risky. I think the kid can play, but I live by this golden rule. If you're selecting a quarterback in the first round, it's got to be a guy that you feel like can come in tomorrow and lead you to an 8 or 9 win season. You got to have a guy that could go from year one. If you're selecting a backup, that's cool, but wait until the second, third, or fourth round. That's just me, though. A lot of these NFL teams and GMs, they'll select a guy in the top 15, and he won't even start next season. I'll put it this way, and we'll get a move on. I wouldn't be shocked if he went that high because there is a lot of hype around his name. But I'm not too sure if I was a fan of the Panthers if I'd want this guy. I'll leave it at that. Continuing to go up here, got defensive end, defensive tackle, defensive end. Nobody cares about that. At number 5, we got the quarterback from Kentucky, Will Levis. No introduction needed. You know who he is. Maybe arguably the most controversial pick out of all of them. To a lot of people, it makes no sense whatsoever because at Kentucky in this past year, he wasn't too great. I'll show you his stats and numbers compared to the rest of college football. Keep in mind he did miss a game or two. 2,500 yards, 19 TDs, 10 INTs. That concerns me. And a QBR of 60.9, which ranks 59th in the country. Most people, keep in mind I said most people, they're going to see his numbers and they're going to see how he played at Kentucky this year and say, well, dang, I don't get it. Why is this guy even a first-round pick? I myself, I watched Kentucky play a lot of games last season. I even went back and watched some of the film. And Will Levis, I will give him the benefit of the doubt because the Kentucky offensive line is pitiful, maybe the worst in the country. The offensive line did not help him out whatsoever, and I don't care if you're playing at the middle school level, high school level, college level, or NFL level. If your offensive line does not block, you can't do anything. A great example was Joe Burrow last year against the Tennessee Titans. As to how he pulled that game out in the playoffs last year and beat Tennessee, makes no sense to me whatsoever. Offensive line was pitiful. I think the Titans had something like, was it 8 or 9 sacks, and they still lost the game. I've seen it with the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady. When his offensive line is bad, even he doesn't look too great. So for that reason alone, I'm giving him a pass, and also got to take into account he didn't have the greatest wide receivers in the country. As to where it stands today, I would say Will Levis is a good quarterback who could potentially be a guy who is similar to Josh Allen. And that's the comparison everybody uses. Because Josh Allen at Wyoming had a lot of touchdowns, had a lot of interceptions, just like Will Levis, goes to the NFL, and yeah, he's balling out. So I understand the Will Levis one. To me, he's my QB3 in the draft behind Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, and that's where they got him going, so no problem with that whatsoever. Moving up the list here gets a little bit more controversial. You got Bryce Young going at number 4 and Will Anderson going at 3. And I'll just redrop the other two while we're at it. CJ Stroud at number 2 to the Texans, and at number 1, Jalen Carter, the defensive tackle from Georgia, who is To say this guy, Jalen Carter, to say he is a beast would be an understatement. Jalen Carter is a freak of nature. He's going to have a great NFL career. Should he be the number one pick, though? That's what we're about to talk about. To me, in my humble opinion, if the Bears have the number one overall pick and they don't trade it, of course, they're not going to draft a quarterback. You got to go with Justin Fields. They're not going to take a quarterback. So if you're going to take any other player on the board, I just don't see how you pass up on Will Anderson Jr. Will Anderson can do it all, and the best part about his game is how hard he plays. A lot of these guys you see with talent, they understand and know they're talented, so they don't give it 100%. They'll give it 85%. But for Will Anderson, his motor never stops. Not only is he a freak of nature, but he checks off the boxes. He's a guy that you're never going to have to worry about. He's never going to get in trouble. And in the NFL, that's a big thing. Say it with me now. Your best ability is availability. I don't care how great you are at your job. If you show up 3 out of 5 days, you're not a good employee. I love me some Jalen Carter, but when you got the number one pick, you got to get the best guy on the board, and that's Will Anderson. As far as it goes for CJ Stroud going over Bryce Young, I have no problem with it whatsoever. They're 1A, 1B. I could sit up here for 10 minutes and tell you how great Bryce Young is and how great CJ Stroud is, but you know this. They're great quarterbacks. The only thing that separates them in my eyes is Bryce Young is a little bit smaller, and CJ Stroud, he has that NFL stature. And it is concerning, to say the least. I know everyone's going to bring up, oh, Matt, what about Kyler Murray? What about Russell Wilson? Well, here's the difference with those guys and Bryce Young. Bryce Young isn't built. Kyler Murray, he's thick. Russell Wilson, he's thick. But Bryce Young, he's still relatively skinny. I'm sure he's going to put on weight, but the point is, at this current moment, he hasn't. And me personally, if I'm Bryce Young, if this played out, I go to the Colts, I couldn't be any happier. You do not, and let me repeat this, you do not want to play for the Houston Texans. That organization, not just a team, that organization is a mess. I know there's going to be mixed feelings and emotions, so let me know your thoughts on this down below. I'll leave it at this. It's interesting. Moving along here to our second topic. Remember the Florida quarterback, Marcus Stokes, for those of you that don't know? He got his scholarship pulled because he was rapping a song. It had the N-word in it. He said it out loud, posted it, I believe, on Snapchat, and got his scholarship removed. Well, guess what? He got a new offer. Oh, man. And guess what school, offered him? An HBCU school. The school that offered him is Albany State University, and it's just ironic because you know why. He got his scholarship removed from Florida for saying the N-word, and now an HBCU school, which is mostly black people, they're offering him a scholarship. Good for you, Marcus Stokes, and I said this a while back, I'm going to say it again. Marcus Stokes, if the worst thing you ever do in this life is rap a song, literally, you're just singing along with a song and it just so happens to have the N-word in it, if that's the worst thing you do in this life, you're going to be okay. And I know some people are going to be running to the comment section and say, Matt, are you defending him? What's wrong with you? Listen here, you bozo. I'm not defending him. I've already said he messed up and he shouldn't have done it, but when he did it at the time, he was a kid. And he still currently is a kid. I believe he's only 18 years old, and I get technically that's an adult, but we all know, yeah, you're young, you're going to make mistakes. And I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. What he did, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal, and you're going to have some people say, oh, Matt, well, you're white, you don't get to speak on it. And don't you think that's a problem? A lot of people, and here's the thing, I've heard people say this, and it's actually true, white people are the new minority when it comes to speaking their opinions because white people cannot have an opinion about stuff like this. White people don't get to have an opinion on anything anymore because it's viewed as racist. Once again, let me emphasize this. Not excusing what he did, but he was singing along with a song. He shouldn't have done it. And let me make this clear. If he would have said this, the N-word, in a derogatory manner, we'd be having a completely different conversation. If he would have pointed at somebody down the street and said it in a video and it got recorded, yeah, completely different conversation. Remove his scholarship. I'm not for that. The bottom line is that didn't happen, and you still got sad individuals in the comments saying, black people so blank forgiven, it's sickening, and under that, this is exactly how I feel. Somebody said, bruh, he just rapped a song, get the stick out your you knew what, lady. You get the point. I'm not going to run through here and pick out and read all these comments where people are mad about this. You understand what the conflict's about. Last thing I'm going to say about this, and we got to get a move on. I didn't even want to talk about it this much, but it happens. As to why he even has the N-word in his vocabulary in 2023, I have no idea whatsoever. If you're a white person in 2023 saying the N-word, you just need to do some reevaluating. There's no reason to say it shouldn't be a part of your vocabulary, period, the end. However, with that being said, to the people that are offended by this, is it really worth ruining this man's life over singing along to a rap song? That's where I'm coming from with this. But moving along to our third topic before we get into the main topic, the main encore, we got to talk about Stetson Bennett. Let me know in the comment section. I'm really curious. I'm thinking about retiring the name DoorDash Bennett. I believe I'm going to just start calling him Stetson Bennett from now on because he did have that great of a year this year. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section. Should we continue to say DoorDash Bennett or is it Stetson Bennett? Anyways, that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about the news that came out today, and yeah, check this out. ESPN's Mel Kiper Jr., the guy who does all the mock drafts and whatnot, said that he believes, and this is all quote unquote, Stetson Bennett will probably end up being a third-round selection in the NFL draft. Yes, that's right. You heard me, and you're seeing that correctly. A third-round selection. I gotta be totally honest. When I saw that, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a prank. But apparently, it is not a prank. It is a real thing. I want to describe this in the best way I can. I'm not too sure what about this mind boggles me more. Should I be more baffled at the fact that Mel Kiper Jr. is projecting him to go in the third round? Or should I be more baffled about the fact that people actually think Stetson Bennett can even be a backup in the NFL? What should I be baffled about? And I'm okay if you want to say, hey, Stetson Bennett at best can be a backup quarterback in the NFL because maybe he could do so. But that's not what we're talking about. You don't select backup quarterbacks in the third round. You select guys that are going to play one day. If you're just trying to get a quote-unquote backup quarterback that's not even going to compete for the starting job, you get him in the 5th round, the 6th round, or the 7th round, not the 3rd round. In the 3rd round, this is where you're going to see a lot of your diamonds in the rough. You're still going to see a lot of studs. If Mel Kiper Jr. would have said the 5th round or the 6th round, I wouldn't even be talking about it. But the 3rd round, that's a little too much. Look, man, I will be the first to tell you, this year he just had at Georgia, Stetson DoorDash Bennett, it was outstanding. You can argue and say, and no, I don't even think it's an argument. I am going to say this. He was the clutchest quarterback in college football this season. He was. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He was awesome, and I've given him that credit and respect. You guys know this. But at the end of the day, when you're talking about the college level compared to the NFL, two different things, not even in the same atmosphere. And to go on top of that, I also kind of expect a guy who's 25 years old, and I'm not saying this to be funny, I mean it wholeheartedly, I full on expect a guy who is 25 to dominate 18 and 19-year-old kids. You should be clutch. You should be able to read the defenses because for the first 2 or 3 years, you were terrible at it. Here's how I truly feel about it. I think Stetson DoorDash Bennett is a good undrafted free agent. That's it. That's all I'm going to give him. I have no idea as to why people think he should be drafted in any round. He's a poor man's version of Johnny Manziel, and there is nothing, let me repeat this, nothing at all that screams out NFL. Doesn't have a strong arm, he's not tall, he's not big, and he can't run fast. And the reason I call him poor man's Johnny Manziel is because, yes, against college kids, he could run around them left and right, zigzag, and do all that crazy stuff. But in the NFL, that's not going to happen. I'll put it this way. I just don't see a scenario where this guy could come in off the bench, whether the starter gets hurt or something happens. Stetson Bennett comes in off the bench and can even lead you down the field for a touchdown. I could be wrong, and it wouldn't be the first time I've been proved wrong by DoorDash Bennett, but I gotta see it to believe it. Let me know your thoughts on everything we talked about down below, but roll with Billy!